Hello. Thank you, everyone, for coming to this talk. And I'll clear the air now. Yes, I am a 40-year-old white man telling you about TikTok. But don't worry, I've been in the games industry for about 20 years making online videos. So hopefully I have some interesting information I can impart to all of you. So before we get started, there's like a few sort of assumptions that I've made about this. So I'm assuming that you're all here because you already know that TikTok is a big deal. I'm not going to be here going, so TikTok is this app that's really, really great. You know it's awesome. That's why you're here. The other thing is this is a very practical talk. It's about understanding what you can make and how to make it. We'll talk a little bit about strategy and brand identity, but that's not really what this is about. This is very much a thing going, here are the tools. Here's what you can be making. Go and make it. And then lastly, this is aimed at solo devs, small teams, indie publishers, basically people who want to do this stuff in-house rather than hiring people like me. So I'm kind of doing myself out of some work, but there's no reason that you can't do all of this. And that's all right. So yeah, again, this is about creating, not strategy. Also, you don't need to take any notes because it's full of TikTok videos and all sorts of stuff like that. So there's the bit.ly link there. You can take a photo of the screenshot, but I will also put it up on screen and I'll leave it during the Q&A session, so you'll have the link. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Let's go. So I work for a company called Explosive Allen Productions. I promise there's a good story behind the weird, wanky media name. We've been making videos for 10 years, actually, this year, which is pretty great. We're a digital-first, gaming-focused production company. We specialize in video and animation, and we are very much in the sort of social, digital side of things. That's just like a little slice of what we did. Yeah, okay. So my personal experience, I've made TikToks for a lot of established gaming brands. So one of them was Life is Strange. I helped to kind of curate and start that channel, and it's still going. It's doing really, really well. It's Square Enix game, if you know the Life is Strange series. And it's actually the first time they've taken a risk doing a first-party IP as a dedicated TikTok channel, which is pretty cool. And then we did some stuff for Red Bull as well. There's a series called My Loadout, which is taking a bunch of esports stars and actually going and looking at their hardware and software loadouts and their actual granular settings of what's the field of view, what's your mouse sensitivity, stuff like that. And people really enjoy that, so you can kind of port that over to your own games. And then we also did, you saw the Rick Astley stuff there before. So we did a lot of material around the Guardians of the Galaxy Marvel game, which is really, really cool. And yeah, Rick Astley is such a dude, and he agreed to do all sorts of fun things for that. So let's kind of get into it. I think I'm only going to say this once. TikTok is not just about music and dance moves, and I'm also not going to do any dancing on stage. This is as good as it's going to get. For me, TikTok is a discovery tool. So it's not so much about wasting time and entertainment. It exists, I love this quote, it exists between the moments in your life rather than being the moments in your life. Whereas YouTube and Twitch, they don't really do this. If you go and you watch a thing and you go, oh, I'm going to watch an hour-long video essay on YouTube, you dedicate time towards that. Whereas TikTok it's happening between the moments. You're waiting for a bus, or you're waiting somewhere else, or there's just a few moments to kill, and you kind of jump on, and it's an entertainment thing. But the best part about it is within 5 minutes, I could see someone else's commute in Japan. I'm like, that's nice, isn't it? It's better than being on the tube here. Or I can discover a new graphic novel that I'm going to read later this afternoon. Or I'm going to get a new recipe that I'm going to eat this evening. Or I'm going to discover an indie game. And like this one in particular is called XO1. We're going to talk a little bit more about it and how I'll give you my personal journey of how I've discovered stuff. And that'll give you some context into how you can have your own games discovered organically as well. And the other thing is, this is highly tailored and unique to me. The algorithm is scary good. So my For You page will look completely different to yours. And if you just give the app maybe like a week, it will tailor what you love very, very efficiently. It's pretty scary, but it's very cool. So if you take the time to teach you what you love, it'll give you good things. So let's talk about XO1. So this actually happened. I was waiting for a bus, flicking through, and then I just saw the visuals of this game, and it is so visually striking. So it's a single dev, and the description of the game is, so XO1 is a surreal planetary exploration game using a gravity-based movement system. So basically, you're this Flight of the Navigator style silver ball, and you can either go into a ball and you become heavy and you drop, or you flatten out and then you can kind of like soar over the clouds and things like that. And you go to all these different planets and it's literally going from where you land to try and find these blue streaks, which is like a portal that takes you somewhere else. And it really helps that this game is really kind of visually striking. So as you're flicking through a bunch of stuff, it really has that thumb-stopping appeal. So the journey for me is I kind of like came across it, saw the video, went, wow, this is amazing, instantly clicked on the account, looked through it, thought, yeah, this stuff's great, followed him, wishlist the game, because he's obviously got the link in his bio, because he's smart. And then I told everyone about it, shared it all, and eventually went through and purchased the game. So that was my user journey from kind of discovery all the way through to purchase. And I probably discovered it maybe 4 to 6 months before the game actually came out. So this is something I want to try and impart to all of you. Like, this is something that you could do relatively easily. So before we get stuck into it, this is the stuff that we're going to be talking about. So we're going to go into why TikTok is the best marketing bet that you have at the moment on social in terms of platforms. We're going to do some practical tips on exactly like what you can make and how you can make it. And then at the end, I've got another slide that's just a ton of free resources. Like every tool I mention either has a free trial or it's free. So you don't have to worry about, learning Adobe Premiere or anything like that. And again, this whole deck and everything will be available online. So if you see any links throughout, you can just go and click on anything there. So let's talk about the marketing side of things first. Just a quick overview of the sort of gaming landscape. Like, everybody's on TikTok by this point. Fall Guys, I'm sure you've all heard of it. They're a massive title. Xbox is on there. I mean, they've got 4 million followers. Devolver Digital, so it goes from indies to like massive publishers to indie publishers, all the way down. So it really is time to jump on board. Also, as a quick mention, there's a fantastic thread that's done by a guy called Wayne Emanuel, who's actually one of the gaming partnerships guys at TikTok. And there's an incredible Twitter thread where he basically went, let me show you the sort of landscape. And here are a bunch of people from like indies all the way up to AAAs and really, really good examples of TikToks. And he's curated the whole thing. So I'll put a link to that in there as well. It's definitely worth going through just to get some inspiration and see what others are doing. This is a lovely stat. I love this. So Victoria Tran, she is the community director for Among Us, which is just one of probably the best indie success on TikTok at the moment. TikTok is 1.5 times more likely to immediately go out and buy something or wishlist something that they've discovered on the platform compared to other social platforms. That's kind of a big deal. Like, the discoverability, I think, is the biggest thing that TikTok has going for it at the moment. It's super high compared to other social platforms. And the way that the algorithm works currently, it's very adaptive and it changes a lot. But the way that it works currently is that everyone is kind of on the same playing field. So if you make a TikTok today, you will get just as much sort of exposure as when Xbox posted their first one. They try and boost it as much as possible. So you will really kind of get that discovery quite easily. Here's another nice one. So TikTok is optimized to feed you more videos about the things that you're interested in rather than the people. YouTube and Twitch don't do that. They do the opposite of that. They're very much about like, here's a creator, follow the creator, subscribe, hit the notification, all that sort of stuff. This is much more about the topics and the hashtags and things like that you're interested in. And just as a side note as well, TikTok has, they use hashtags to separate out into smaller niches as well. So anyone who's familiar with the platform, there's like Book Talk, or there was the sea shanty thing that happened a long time ago, and that's like Shanty Talk. And there's loads of different sort of subcategories that they kind of drill down into. And to get into that, you just literally use the hashtag, and now you are part of that community. It's really good. We're not going to go heavily into stats, because why? Because I wanted to show you this. It's not just about the kids anymore. It's not just dancing. We've really kind of like leveled the playing field, and even old people like me are starting to take over. Let's not fuck it up like we did with Facebook. Cool. So let's get into some actual case studies. I already mentioned Among Us. So if you don't know Among Us, shame on you. But Among Us is an online and local party game of teamwork and betrayal for 4 to 15 players in space. It's very cool. So as you can see, they've got a ton of followers. Their average views per post are massive. And that's actually Victoria right there. She does a really, really good job of like filming the team, making it super informal. I mean, like, that's just a webcam or something very, very simple, right? It's not polished. We're going to get onto that in a second. Also, that link there goes to her GDC talk. So she did a full deep dive into sort of the platform strategy and her actual social strategy for TikTok. If you don't have access to the GDC Vault, gamesindustry.biz actually did a really nice text version as well. So I've got a link to that so you can kind of go through it. The best thing about Among Us in particular is they understand their audience really, really well. And that's just kind of listening to the feedback from your community, which is probably the most important thing you can do. It's open, it's honest, and it's informal. Again, you don't need to make stuff that looks highly polished. You don't always have to jump on the trends. You don't have to use the songs. You just have to make something that's very genuine and honest. And you could literally have yourself with a microphone talking about your game. You don't need to be media trained. People really kind of gravitate towards that stuff because it feels real and you want to kind of help someone and champion their title. The other thing is with these guys, they know how to use the platform's strengths, the type of content, they do jump on trends, they have their own dedicated team who does this sort of stuff, but it's definitely worth having a look at the channel just to kind of get some content ideas because they are very, very good at what they do. So again, we're not going to go into too much depth here because she has done such an amazing in-depth kind of talk of her own, and it's much more about how to find your brand's voice or your title's voice or the strategy. This is much more about me going, here's how you're going to make stuff. Here are the tools you're going to do it. Go make it. But definitely check this out. It's really, really good. So probably a less known case study that we can talk about is this game. It's called Farewell North, and it's just stunning. Again, like very visually kind of exciting. Solo dev again, his name's Carl Banks, and he did a Twitter thread which was just a lovely breakdown of like how he was struggling in the beginning, had like one viral post and everything kind of took off from there. And it was really, really candid. So I've taken some sort of selects out of that. There is a link to the actual thread, so you can go look at the more sort of detail in there. But I'm just going to go through some of the highlights because I don't think it's not just a good example of a success. He has so many good practices throughout. And I want to highlight those. So first things first. Well, I should tell you what the game is about. So you restore color to these desolate islands. It's an open world journey where you play as the border collie, yay, traveling with its owner. It's a beautiful game. So what he was doing in the beginning is he was mostly posting his non-technical devlogs, and it was literally him kind of speaking to a microphone, doing some stuff, capturing the Unity engine, like in the actual editor and things like that, and posting them on YouTube. But it was fine, and it was doing well for him. And he said in 18 months, he'd grown it to like just shy of 16,000 subs, 800,000 views, and 42,000 hours of watch time. That's not bad. That's pretty great. But he wanted to kind of really get more discoverability. We'll get into sort of wish lists and stuff afterwards. So TikTok growth was initially very slow because he was just repurposing his YouTube content, basically making it to a portrait and then just whacking on his TikTok channel. That's a very bad idea because now you can't take existing content. You can't make something for YouTube, even if it's not about ratio, and just slap it across every single social channel because it just doesn't work. Every single one of those platforms has a unique voice. The audience likes a certain thing. So you can't really do that anymore. So you really kind of have to tailor stuff towards TikTok. So here's how he did it. Also, just quickly, these views, they're not terrible. I mean, if you're getting 300 eyeballs on a video, that's better than 0 eyeballs. But he was wanting to get it up into the thousands and make it really, really kind of memorable. So then there was this post that went viral. It's this one. So basically, this is him. I haven't got any sound because I wasn't sure if it was going to work. But basically, it's him talking about how the idea of the game came about. He made this little prototype all about his dog because his dog would like run around the house and like find ways to jump up onto platforms. And he thought there was a game in there. And then he talks through that. He talks about some of his other early prototypes and how he worked with color. And it's just him literally narrating his journey and then putting it all together very simply. There you go. There's the dog. And then how it became this. So he said he had 250 followers when he posted it, and within an hour or two, it became by far the most viewed thing that he's got on TikTok. The next morning, I think he posted on a Friday, and then on Saturday morning, he had 20,000 likes and about 4,000 followers. So that, what is he saying? It's double what it took him 10 years to achieve on Twitter. Twitter is, I know that's not what this talk is about, but Twitter is a very kind of impenetrable platform. You really need to know what you're doing, and your cadence of posting has to be a lot compared to something like TikTok. So the best thing about TikTok is the engagement with the community actually creates more content. So there's a feature that you could do. So that is actually a comment that one of the viewers basically asked about the game. And then if you respond to that, you can either do it through text or you can use it in a video, and then you're making more content while just answering a user question, which is awesome. And then it puts it up there. So someone, classic, can you pet the dog? And he was like, oh, this is a bit of a weird challenge because you are the dog. So how are you going to it's going to be a bit weird. But you do have your handler and your owner that's kind of with you. So he actually he added a feature where you can request to be patted, and people loved it. Yeah. It's really good. So nice. But again, this is a lovely example of how he's engaging with his community, which is a big thing about TikTok. We're going to talk more about that. But that became its own piece of content. So now he doesn't need to have like a plan and he's got to make all these bits and pieces. He's reacting to the community live. And the best part is it's publicly, you can influence development. So your game gets better, you get massive kudos from people because they're like, oh, this guy's actually listening to what we want and he's adding these features into the game, which is a big deal. And then, again, you're creating content in the process. So it's this amazing cycle where you don't really get that on other platforms. So 48 hours after the first video, collectively being viewed just shy of 1 million times. That's pretty great. More than he's achieved in 18 months on YouTube. And he's added 17,000 followers. And again, these people are going to be checking in a fair amount. And if you're posting regularly, if someone's followed you, your content will come up pretty regularly. So they are always going to have eyeballs on as long as you're posting. So, most importantly, how does this translate to Steam wish lists? He got 830 wish lists just over that weekend, so let's just call it 3 days, where his daily average was 14. So there was a huge spike. And then he posted this graph as well, where like most of the stuff before the massive rise, that was mostly YouTube, kind of dwindling, struggling a little bit, and then that one post hit and it took off. Now, we've all seen, on other platforms, there are viral posts, and I'm not saying that you have to go and make a viral post. That's not what we're talking about here. What we're going to get onto is talking about consistent social content, and one will take off. And the chance of it taking off on a platform like TikTok, I personally would say is higher than most other social platforms. So if you're going to sink your time into something, I would do it here. Right, let's get on to actually making stuff. So there are 5 content types that you should be making for gaming brands. This isn't exclusive. There are other stuff, but we're all busy. You need to kind of focus on what you're going to do. So gaming updates, ongoing updates, bug fixes, all that sort of stuff. Personality-based TikToks, if you've got a team, if it's by yourself, if you're comfortable on camera, it's definitely worth kind of putting yourself in the video because people like to see a face. It really, really helps. You can do some VO stuff, but if you just do a couple videos with yourself or the team or your office or even just you filming the screen, as long as it feels like a human being is making this stuff, it goes a long, long way. Behind the scenes videos, everybody loves that. So if you can literally film your screen, or you could do some capture with like OBS, or I think NVIDIA has like a screen capture mode as well. So if you're doing stuff in the editor and it's not sort of, super secret or anything else, people love to see behind the scenes of making games, especially if it's a small team. Gameplay, that one's straightforward because that is putting your best foot forward and you really just want to show off your game as soon as possible. And then random miscellaneous things like reactions to trends, or if you've got merch, or if there's something funny or it's hot, you want to jump on that at the moment, then you can do that. So we're only going to focus on 2 ways to make stuff. You're either going to film something or you're going to do capture with copy. And by capture with copy, I mean something like this. So you're going to capture your game, you're going to stick some text over the top of it. This can all be done in the app, by the way. So that's No Man's Sky's official stuff. All that copy is literally just done in the app. And as you can see, they've just captured that's from their one of their trailers, I think. But you can just get game cap. Doesn't even need to be portrait if you don't want to. If you feel like that's taking away something from your game, that's okay. And you can just do this stuff very, very simply. This one on the left here is a really nice example. It's the devs basically talking about how the draw distance was actually making his assets look really, really crap. So he talks about how at the top there, it's all very like visually muddled and you can't really tell. Whereas what he did is he actually reduced the line length of some of his assets when you were further away. And then as you got closer, it kind of faded back in and it's a much, much nicer effect. And again, that's like 10, 15 seconds of video. And someone's going, oh, that's really cool. I like that. That's great. Maybe you're helping someone else with their own problem. So the tools. So these are the things that you can use to make videos. So if you want to do stuff just strictly on your phone with the app, you can get it on the iPad as well if you need something with the UI a bit bigger. You can do that. The TikTok app is actually pretty great, like for filming and doing copy and things like that. It's really, really good. If you want something a bit more feature-filled, or you want some like interesting transitions or like video effects or like audio stuff, there's another app called CapCut. It's made by ByteDance, who are the same people who make TikTok. So they've kind of separated it out, which is quite nice. You don't have like a feature-heavy, TikTok app itself. They've gone, if you want to do all of your editing in the separate one, we kind of endorse that. It's a much better idea. I've also linked to a tutorial as well about how to get started with that stuff. If you're on desktop, Canva's great. I don't know if any of you use Canva for design or anything like that, but basically it's a free design tool where you can make slides, graphics, anything like that, but they've added a video editor onto it, and they actually have a format. So if you go on there, you can say, I want the TikTok format, and they go, bang, here it is. They do all the text for you. It's really, really helpful. That's a free trial. You can get pretty far without it, to be honest, without paying for it. So definitely worth checking out. If you're on Mac, iMovie is also great, to be honest. I've got a tutorial of how to use iMovie. You can kind of customize it to make your own templates to make TikToks. If you want to go pro, you can do Adobe Premiere or DaVinci Resolve. For those who haven't heard of those, Adobe Premiere is kind of the video editing software, even though it's buggy as hell, but you know, we all are stuck with it. DaVinci Resolve used to be it still is a coloring software for doing sort of grading and coloring management and stuff like that on films, but they've added a much, much better sort of linear editing timeline, and it's pretty good, and it's free. It's super powerful. It's a bit fiddly, so I've got another tutorial at the end of the talk for that. But if you want to dedicate some time, that's pretty great. You'll be using that for years. Filming. So this is, filming and how to film yourself and how to film things. That's a whole separate talk. And, we don't really have time. But we did put together a handy guide for Unity when lockdown happened and they had to do a bunch of remote filming. So I've linked to that as well. And it's like a presentation that's basically like, here's how to set up lighting. Here's what 3-point lighting looks like. Don't have a window behind you, stuff like that. And it's about sound and grading and all the sorts of things like that. Really simple. Camera, you just use your phone. Like if you've got a DSLR or something, that's great, but you really don't need to go that high quality if you don't want. Sound is super important. It's in the guide. Sound is about 50% of your video. So if you watch a video that has like incredible visual quality, but the sound is super crap, you are really kind of put off by it, and it's a psychological thing, and you don't really know why. So if you can get your sound really, really good, there are really cheap mics. Again, in the guide, I've got like Amazon listings of things you can buy. You can buy like a clip mic like what I'm wearing for like £15, and you can just plug it into your PC and it just literally records directly onto that. Definitely worth investing in. Lights, bring lights, it's a thing. And then some presenting tips as well. That's obviously its whole thing. I can't really go into that. Like if you're not very comfortable on camera, highly recommend having a look at that guy's video because he just tells you how to kind of do a bit of breath work, how to feel a bit better, get used to the camera, talking on camera, things like that. But again, you don't have to be on camera to do this stuff. There's a lot of sort of solo devs who are just doing VO, filming the game, doing capture with copy. It works just fine. Shared storage, because if you're in a team or you want to pass on some of this stuff, so you've got like footage on your phone, you've got audio on your laptop, you want to kind of get that into the same sort of place so people can have it. Maybe you have a team, maybe by yourself, you want to get it onto your laptop so you can edit it. Dropbox, we've all heard of Dropbox, right? Like there's a free trial. It's pretty decent. There's a few gigs that you can get. Google Drive, if you're on that already, they give you a ton of free space and most people can access it, so it's totally fine. When it comes to scheduling and posting this stuff, because that's pretty time sinky, to be honest, because you need to kind of go, okay, when's the right time of day? And you want to test stuff. So maybe you try and upload something at 9 in the morning, doesn't do as well as the one you uploaded over lunchtime yesterday. So you're like, okay, and you want to kind of like schedule it, but you don't want to have to think about that every single day because you're busy, you're making a game or you're publishing something. So Hootsuite's really good. So you can queue up a bunch of content and you can choose, and it doesn't just do TikTok. It does all sorts of stuff, all the social platforms. So jump on that. It is a free trial. Unfortunately, that one is paid, but see how you get on with it. There's another one called Later, and that's free, but it has a limited feature set on the free version, but a lot of people use that because it is pretty good and it remains free for most of the time. All right, let's talk about some tips and tricks. So here's just like a few bits and pieces of like, while you're making stuff, you've got the tools now, you know what you need to be making. There's some TikTok channels you can check out. So here's some tips for kind of making your own content. So the algorithm, it is the heart of the whole experience, to be honest. It changes a lot, but in a good way. If you can stay on top of it, it's really, really good. The personality and cultural understanding of TikTok does need to be on point. So the preface that I had of the talk where it was like, do this really quickly. Yeah, that was a lie. You need to spend quite a bit of time on TikTok, but it won't, eat up your whole life. But I guarantee if you jump on TikTok to kind of like get an idea of what it's like, within a week, you won't want to stop being on TikTok because it is really, really good at entertaining you. It's very, very cool. So yeah, there's that thing again, the quote that it exists between the moments in your life, whereas YouTube and Twitch, they are the moments. So to get someone to focus exclusively and stop what they're doing on you giving like a game update that's 20 seconds long, that's tough on a channel like YouTube or on Twitch, on Twitter, as people are kind of like scrolling. Unless it's super visually captivating, it's hard to get people to kind of stop and take notice of your stuff. But here, you can absolutely do that. You need to be raw and honest. You don't need to do polished stuff. You really, really don't. An average sort of creation time, I recommend like between 15 minutes to like an hour per video. Like if you want to build like a feature-filled video, maybe an hour where you want to have like cool transitions, or you've got like a bunch of different capture and you want to kind of delineate it like that. But you shouldn't be spending more than that, to be honest. If you are, you're kind of being too much of a perfectionist, and you just need to kind of get stuff out there and just get the community response, because it's not a hate-filled platform. No one's going to get on there and be like, this is really crap. Why are you doing this thing? No, they don't really do that on TikTok. People are very, very encouraging and very like championing of especially small people and small teams. So honesty works in your favor. Like honestly, if things aren't going well, you're having a tough week, you're like, you know what? This week was really hard. It was just a bunch of bug fixing. I don't really have a lot for you. Here's a picture of a cat. People will love it. And they'll laugh and be like, you know what? That was pretty great. And they'll follow you anyway. Keep it focused. Because they are so short, you really have to hook people within the first 3 seconds. So if you're lucky enough to have a visually appealing title, that's great, because then bang, there it is. The moment you kind of go onto your video, it's really kind of eye-catching. It makes you stop, and then at least you've got them for those initial seconds. You can either do it with video, with the visuals, or you can do it with audio. There's a bit of a trend at the moment where people start videos about all sorts, and they're like, oh, you won't believe what happens next. It's the sort of like catchy headline thing. Personally, I'd rather go with more catchy visuals, because then it feels less of the trap. Whereas if people don't like the message you have after being like, this is the best revelation I've ever had, then they might not dig that. But yeah, you can do 10 minutes. So if you want to do longer sort of like behind the scenes focus stuff, like dev stuff, you can do that. Or like a deep dive into art. People like that as well. Like if you have one of your artists who can do a time lapse of their process, like in Photoshop or something like that. You can do it with the NVIDIA screen capture. That's cool, and people will watch that for a long period of time. One thing we haven't touched on as well, which the platform does really well, is live. So live is a whole kind of separate thing, and that's part of the cheat sheet filming thing that I'm going to link to as well. But live is really good on TikTok. It's very similar to other platforms, but if you can stop people's attention while they're kind of going through this sort of hyper-fast content, that's also good. Trending songs, it is a thing. You don't have to jump on it, but I recommend that you do, because it's quite fun to do. You don't have to do songs. You can do sounds. So like my favorite thing on TikTok is like people coming up with like, it's always the weirdest stuff. I won't even try and do it because it won't make any sense. But it doesn't necessarily have to be like a really well-known song. It could be someone just like taking a snippet of something else that somebody did, and now that becomes super viral. It's it's in the search function. So if you click on the magnifying glass, as if you were going to search for some stuff, just down below, it shows you what are the trending sounds and the trending songs. So you can just click on those and see if any of those are appropriate to what you're doing, and then you can just use it. And it's always in the bottom. It's like a little record, like a little vinyl in the corner. You just click on that, and you can say, use this sound. And then you can put your visuals to that sound. And then anytime anyone else looks at that sound, your stuff is now associated with it. So I would definitely recommend doing that in the app. So if you're going to do your video editing off app, definitely keep the audio separate, and then connect the audio on the app itself to the video, because otherwise that won't happen. Even if you use the exact same song, it won't match perfectly. You need to actually go, I want to use this song, and do the thing. There's a really good channel called Trend Bible, and she just kind of like stays on top of everything that is new and coming up and things like that. So if you're struggling to figure out like what are the new trending sounds, I don't have 5 hours a week to go through TikTok and figure out what's cool. Just jump on there and you'll find it, and then you can click on the sound and it'll tell you how many views and like where in the trend it is, and that's a cool way of doing it. It also diversifies your audience. So people who aren't gamers, who maybe would be interested in your game, you can reach them like this, because people are going to be going through this stuff, and if people like songs or they like the trending sound, they'll normally click on it and see what other people are making. So you can just kind of insert yourself into that conversation, which is super cool. Post regularly. It's not like Twitter, which is great, because I feel like Twitter, you need to have at least one post a day. Whereas this is not too bad. I think Among Us, who are super successful, I think they do 1 a week, maybe 2. They might do a little bit more now, but yeah, like I'd say 2 a week and you'd be okay. Engagement time, and that again, that's looking through the interactions on your stuff and interacting with other people's stuff, because you obviously want to champion, your fellow devs. I'd say like 2 hours a week minimum, but honestly, once you start using the app, it's very addictive, but like in a good way, because it's going to make you money and sell your game. Oh yeah, you get 1 link. So this is a tricky one. So in your bio, you get a link just at the top. You don't get to post any links in comments or in the bio, in the description or anything like that. You can't do it in comments. You can only link to your own videos or other people's videos. So you need to use your 1 link really wisely. So you can either have like a link tree, like Linktree is a service where it basically is like a little mini site, and from that 1 link, you can have multiple links and you can kind of curate that and make it look really nice. But ideally, you want to be pushing people to your own site. So I would, if you have a website, I would basically make a mobile-friendly page that's maybe invisible from the main site, and you just literally put all of your links on that, and that's the 1 link that you go to, because then you can track it, you can see what your engagement's like, stuff like that, and you can control it. Whereas like Linktree, they do give you a bunch of data, but you're now giving it to a third party, which isn't great. Hashtags, love a hashtag. We talked about the subgroups as well, like the Shanty Talk, Cooking Talk, Game Dev, things like that. That you don't get penalized for using lots and lots of hashtags. Don't go crazy, but you can stick 10 in there and no one's going to really mind, because TikTok has a thing where it actually hides the description after a certain number of characters, and then you can say unhide and then it'll kind of come up. So you're not going to be ruining someone's viewing experience with all of your hashtags kind of in front of the video. It also helps the algorithm promote your video to the For You page, which is basically your feed and other people's main feed. And name of the game, repurpose. What I said before about not putting it on platforms, yeah, you can totally do that. Do you know why? Because everyone's copying TikTok. So if you're making something for YouTube and you try and put it elsewhere, that doesn't work. But if you make a TikTok and then you put it somewhere else, everyone is trying to copy them. So like Twitter's doing it now, Instagram, Facebook, we don't talk about Facebook, but yeah, but you can basically take this stuff, put it on there, and it's branded as well. So it'll have the TikTok logo, it'll have your handle, and that's already kind of put on the video as well. So you don't have to worry about like losing followers from your main TikTok channel if that's your plan. It will always funnel people back. And I'm sure we've all been on Twitter and you're scrolling through, and the videos, most of them are from TikTok, but you can just repurpose it on the app. So that's pretty cool. And I've put a link down there as well. There's a really, really good guide. It's like 10 tips for indie game devs. I think it's on gamedeveloper.com. And then again to Victoria Tran, because she's just great. So some final thoughts. Let's kind of wrap this whole thing up. How are we doing for time? Doing all right? Some final thoughts. Cool. So start your marketing early. I know you've probably heard this from everyone, and it's so true. Like, even though it's very kind of scary to get started, if you're making a game, honestly, do this stuff like 2 years out if you can, because you'll just slowly build like this community over time. Use it for QA. People can give you ideas for features for your game. You can test it. You can do all this stuff live, and it makes content while you're doing it, which is great. Like it's such a nice little cycle, and it really kind of like gets people involved in your game, and people love to see that they're actually being listened to. I'm not saying you have to include every single feature that someone suggests, but just responding to that person and go, I hear you. Here's maybe why we can do that. Maybe we can't do that. It's amazing. It'll take you very, very far. If you want to push it further, you can use creators and influencers. There are companies out there that kind of do this. You can approach them directly on TikTok. I've got a list of some people that we'll have a look at just now. But there's other companies like Fourth Floor Creative is one. They're based in Bristol. They're an influencer marketing company. You can approach them and say, I really need some help to sort of amplify these things. You can use agencies like mine. We have a video production company. We do this stuff all the time. So if you're too busy and you have a little bit of resource, we have like a nice tiered structure to like help people that's not too expensive. Also, TikTok want to help you. So there's this lovely man, his name's Mark Pickus. He's the gaming partnerships guy for Europe. And he very kindly said that I can put his email address on here. And he said that if anyone in the room wants to kind of have a chat with him and talk about partnerships and how they can actually help you on the platform, he's all ears, which I thought was really, really nice. And then lastly, just do it. Like, don't hold yourself back, because I promise some of the stuff will fly. And even if you make something rather than nothing, it will do something. And also, you might inspire other people to make something. That's important. You're kind of like lifting up the whole industry and the whole community by just doing stuff. And you can make money, sell your game. It's going to be good. Shout about it. It's worth it. It's a good game. So the resource, I won't talk through the stuff, but just I'll leave it on the screen as well so you can kind of see. There's a few accounts to follow. I know we're not really talking about strategy and channel identity and like brands and stuff, but this one guy, Steve Mellor, he's great. He's an American doing loads of fun things, and he talks about like strategy and content, and it's not just for TikTok. So if you're interested in like Instagram, stuff like that, definitely check him out. He has a really, to get engagement really high, he has a 1-second video hack where you basically make a video, but it looks like copy on the screen, and it's only 1 second long, and the time it takes for someone to read all the copy, the video is effectively just looping over and over and over, so your views go through the roof. It's a bit cheaty, but fuck it. Derek Liu, he's great. He's a professional video game trailer editor. He's been going for a long, long time. He's made a lot of trailers that you've definitely heard of. He does not only sort of promotes his own stuff, but he also shows you behind the scenes of like how he puts edits together. And he's like, here's what Premiere is, and here's where I do my cuts, and this is why I do edits like this, and this is where I do my audio. Very, very cool. He also does a breakdown of editing checklists. So that's a really, really good one to use as well, where he's gone, you're going to start making a trailer. Here's a list of everything that you're going to need. Here's a list of everything that people are going to ask for in terms of like press assets. Definitely check him out. And then this last guy, Madmorph, he's like, I think he's just a lone guy who just loves games, but his whole channel is about promoting indie titles. It's brilliant. So you don't have to be reaching out to sort of massive influencers, you know what I mean? You could just go onto the platform, find these small communities and these like small promoters, and they just want to help. Just give them a code and they will talk about it. And like, they get views. It's good. It's worth it. He's also got one on the Lamb Cult game as well, which is very, very fun. That's it. There we are. And I'll put the download link there as well if you want to have a chat with me. I'm on Twitter, sort of, or you just mail me, and yeah, I'll help wherever I can. Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions? I think we've got like 7 minutes. Oh, it's got to wait for the mic. Oh, there it is. Sorry. Thank you.
Hello?
Oh, there we go.
Hi there. So with TikTok, YouTube is essentially, I would say some biggest competitor. And when it comes to advertising your game, which a lot of the behind the scenes, are essentially trying to do, at what point do you think TikTok might go through the same evolution YouTube had to do, where they had to have an absolute distinction between what's a genuine video?
That's a good question. Obviously, like, I can only speak for myself. I'm not part of TikTok or like associated with the platform or anything like that. But it is a thing that they're trying at the moment. They are kind of doing ads. I know that it's a minefield for them. So they are kind of treading very, very lightly because they don't want to push users away. So in terms of timelines, I don't know, but I'm sure it will get to that point because, they do have sponsored ads. And and again, this is my own personal opinion. You'll probably get one first time you go on the platform, like as when you open the app, you'll probably get an ad first up and you can skip it within, I think, 3 seconds or something like that. But the frequency of ads compared to YouTube, where it's like every video, it's pre-roll, it's like mid-roll, and there's all this stuff, you don't really get that yet. So if it's going to happen, I hope not, because I don't know if it'll work as well, but I hope they don't go down that route. Oh, here it comes.
See if this works. Yes, it does. Cool. I was just going to ask, just based on the accounts that you've kind of done stuff for already, one of the things that always has seemed mega, mega important on YouTube has always been the actual thumbnail of the video, to the point of sometimes you'll have maybe a statement in the thumbnail that's maybe a little bit baity or a little bit of a hook to pull people in. I personally, on TikTok, it sometimes feels random. Sometimes I'll have stuff do relatively well when I've not put any thought into what the thumbnail is. But is that something you are using as part of the strategy on the actual TikToks you're putting out?
Not so much, to be honest. Like even, I wonder if I can go all the way back to that slide. We'll go all the way back just because it has all the, it's got like a little bit at the bottom that has all the thumbnails. Is that it? Yeah, look, like they're not polished at all. Like I think it's a very, very kind of low on the priority list. Like we never had to make them personally for all the stuff that we made. No, it was literally the first frame and that was it. So that technically is the thumbnail, but we didn't really take a long time to kind of curate that stuff because most people aren't looking at the accounts. They're just kind of doing this like constantly. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. Maybe they'll make it more of a feature, but the clickbaity thing that you were talking about is definitely in the first 3 seconds where people are like, you won't believe this hack. I'm like, fuck off. Yeah. Sorry, I'm sure they're great, but you know. I hope that answered your question. Oh, sorry, we're going to come back.
Hi. You talked a lot about trending sounds and trending topics. How do you go about working with sort of, because a lot of the trending sounds are IP based, and so it's hard to sort of use a sound without getting the licenses and stuff, and a lot of licenses aren't publicly available. Do you have a way of finding out if those are sounds or licenses that you can purchase, or do you guys just not worry about it because it's not become such an issue on TikTok yet?
It's the way that we use it anyway. It's on the app. So we won't use something. We won't be like, oh, we're going to go and get this licensed track and then put it on the video and then put that on TikTok. It'll be part of TikTok anyway. So we'll be like, oh, there's a Justin Bieber song that's trending, or there's a sound that's trending, like the Louis Theroux thing, like my money don't jiggle, jiggle, that, right? So we'll be like, oh, we're going to do something for that. So the starting point is always what's on the app, what's trending, and then you can use that because they've paid for the licensing. So you don't need to worry about putting your content against that stuff. They've already taken care of that.
But you then can't export it off to other platforms.
Yeah,
can you?
yeah. Sorry, no, I probably should have said that. The trending stuff, you need to be careful when repurposing it on other platforms because then it will get taken down. If you put that on YouTube like that, yeah. But the trending stuff shouldn't really be the bulk of your content. That's more to kind of like diversify your audience, kind of like spread it around a little bit, and also just it's more of a joke and more for fun. Whereas maybe your game update doesn't need to have Louis kind of underneath the bottom of it. They'll probably do well, but yeah. Hope that answers your question. Oh,
I'm just going to take it. But I find with some brand pages, for example, that...
sorry, I can't hear you.
Can you not hear me?
I can now, yeah.
I'll get closer. I find with some brand pages, you can't actually find trending songs because you are a brand page and you are thereby almost... You're kind of like... Oh, I lost the word completely, but basically you cannot access certain trending songs because you are a brand, same as that of Instagram. If you're a creator account, sure. If you're an individual account, sure. But if you are a brand and you are a studio and you want to actually access trending songs, you can't do it. You have to use commercially licensed music. So in this particular instance, would you then consider rather just creating your own audio and having that? Because I feel like on TikTok, when you have an original audio, it does far better than any trending song or music, unless you are jumping on a trend specifically. But if you're just going to talk with like a trending Justin Bieber song underneath it, it doesn't actually do that well.
No.
So as a brand, would you then say, actually, don't even bother with music at this particular instance unless you need to, because it's commercially licensed music and we all know how that sounds.
Yeah,
So,
that's a very good point, actually. Don't use the track as like a bed track for you to then put your own stuff over the top because it's a waste. Because also it won't work with the algorithm. It won't associate it with that. But you're right, we come across this all the time with brands. And I know like TikTok has its own sort of issues and brands are a bit worried to get on board because of all sorts of legal issues and things like that. And that is something we face all the time. But you're right, like if it's a problem for a brand, it doesn't mean that it's over. You can honestly just do your own thing and make your own sounds. And in terms of non-licensed tracks, that's okay. Like it's not all about the music anymore. You can definitely make something that doesn't even have licensed music underneath it, and it will, as you said, it does really, really well. It's not just about the music and the dancers anymore.
yeah, I definitely think that created audios do then perform better.
Yeah.
But yeah, would you recommend if you're an indie studio and say you're creating your own game, would you recommend them to create a brand page and then have that for later? Or would you just say create a normal user account and then transition it to a brand page thereafter for ad purposes and other things?
So I'm going to assume that if you have a brand, you have a team. and it's a team that you want to talk about because the team itself is going to live longer than the specific title, right? Definitely. You could create both. It's a similar thing with Twitter, to be honest. Like you can either have the brand page, like Xbox will have their page, but then they'll have a page for every single individual title. And then at the top, they'll link back to the brand page. I'd say if you've got the resource, do both because they're very different messages, really, because the brand is very much about the team and the company and the vision and all that sort of stuff. And you want to show off the people who make the stuff, again, bringing it down to actually making it about real people that you can associate with, whereas the title is very much about the game. Hope that helps.
Yeah.
So I think we've got time for one more question, and this lady at the front can go in.
Hello. Oh, wow.
Hello.
First of all, thank you for a very informative talk. That's great. This is a very basic question because I've been told that you get your phone out, use TikTok to record bits of video, and then eventually edit the video later. So are you saying that I can like record using anything, make a video not using TikTok, edit it elsewhere, and then bring that into TikTok and post that?
Yep.
Cool, thank you.
And that's the end of the talk.
It was a quick one.
Yeah, I think I'm out of time, but I'm going to be hanging around for a while. So if you want to come talk to me, that's all good. Thank you so much, everyone. Appreciate it.